of fate.
This is the way. Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Tells me when you'll remember this.
Hello, critics, non-critics, and friends. Welcome to the Film Optix podcast, where we take a glance into blockbusters, indie films, and everything in between. I'm your host, Christian, and I'm joined by my good friend / my co-host, Devin. And today, we're here to give our heavy spoiler thoughts about House of the Dragon, Episode 10, aka the season finale, aka titled The Black Queen. But we are not alone. Joining us for this review is the one and only Queen Tessa of House Mama's Geeky. And before we begin today's episode, you can listen to our podcast on podcast platforms around the internet. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. And if you are a new or seasoned listener to the show, we would love to hear from you guys. Follow us on Instagram and follow us on Twitter at Film Optix. That is Optix with an X. Or you can email us at filmoptix@gmail.com for any movie-related questions. So, how's everyone's week been? Let's start with Tessa, our guest. Welcome back. Glad to have you back. How you been?
Good. Moved to LA since the last time I talked to you from upstate New York. So this last week was finally, we did our very last, unpacked our very last box and got our very last comic book box organized. So we are good, settled, sort of, because it's a rental and we're probably going to buy a house in a few months. But I'm not thinking about that now. Finally, I'm settled. That is where I am leaving this. So it's been a crazy week.
I think that deserves
Yes.
a nice little hooray. Well, it's glad to have you back on. I mean, I know moving is crazy, but I can't imagine, moving, states as well. It's like I feel like that's a different level.
Moving coasts.
Moving coast to coast.
We got rid of so much stuff, and then we came out just because we didn't want to move it. And then we came out here and we're like, oh, now we have so many things we have to buy, that like pieces of furniture. Like we went to IKEA every week for like 2 months, and we were like, finally, we haven't been to IKEA in I think 3 weeks now, and it's like, yay, we don't have to go there anymore.
We were regulars at one point, but not anymore. It's totally fine. But I'm glad to hear that everything is going so well for you. Again, congratulations on the move. Devin, how was your weekend? How you been, buddy? I know we were talking about, what were we talking about? Oh, Black Adam. That's right. We were literally just having a conversation about Black Adam before this. But Devin, how you been?
I've been pretty good. No move for me. It's been a little over a year since my last move. I know how stressful and crazy it is, so I don't envy you, but I'm glad it worked out. Moving is not always fun, but when it works out, it's nice. You get a nice place, new place to live, and just live your life.
That's true. I mean, yeah, I moved myself earlier this year, but I mean, I just moved across town. But I did have to get rid of a lot of things, which I did not have room in my new place. So I'm not at the level that Tessa's at just yet, but I'll get there eventually. But before we begin our House of the Dragon season finale review, I wanted to ask you guys what you've been watching lately. I know there's been so much going on where I feel like right now within the year 2022, it is the golden year for TV, like just all around. Like I firmly believe and feel that TV has been outperforming films this year. But I wanted to ask you guys what you've been watching. So I'll pass it over to Devin, then we'll go to Tessa, and then I'll close out.
Yeah, I'm still working my way through season 1 of Daredevil. I have never watched Daredevil before, so I need to catch up. She-Hulk gave me a great introduction into the character. Now I'm just kind of diving in. Almost done with season 1. It's been very good so far. And I've been doing a lot of gaming as well. A lot of games came out recently.
Yeah, I need to get back on that bandwagon. I mean, I bought Gotham Knights. I'm going to play it at some point, but I'm like, ugh. Anyway, Tessa, what have you been watching lately? I feel like you've been a very busy bee.
I've everything. Is everything an answer? Movie wise, Black Adam, that was a thing. Then Wendell and Wild I just watched. That was like really good. That's on Netflix, coming to Netflix this week, I think. But then TV wise, so I have been on a kick of like since I'm watching so much stuff, when I can watch like something I don't have to review type of thing, I've been on like reality TV kicks. So I just watched The Mole. I binged The Mole on Netflix, which was actually
Is
really
that
good.
good? I've been intrigued.
Yeah, I loved The Mole before. Like, I was a big fan of it when it was on TV before. And so this was actually good. The worst part was that they didn't put it all together. So they gave you like several episodes, then you had to wait a week for several more. Then you had to wait a week for the 2 final ones.
Yeah, they've been doing that for reality TV for some reason. Like kind of ditching binge a little bit for reality, but not for the other stuff. It's been weird.
It was awful. I hated it. I was so angry. So that was the worst part of that. And then the challenge. I've been watching the new challenge. I love me some Johnny Bananas. So I was very excited to see him back this season. And then speaking of gaming, I just actually beat yesterday. I sat and I beat Return to Monkey Island, which I was so excited about. I love that stupid game. I love those games. And I've been debating on buying Gotham Knights, but I hear it's a struggle. So
Devin and I are both PC gamers. We have ascended across the console plane to something higher, more enlightening, and we were able. One of the perks of gaming on PC is that you don't necessarily have to pay for MSRP all the time, depending on where you get your code from. I think we both spend around $40 to $45 on hours. I would not, this is me personally, I'm enjoying the game for what it is, but I do not think it is worth what they're asking right now.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's also being held to impossible standards with the Arkham series. It's just, it can't compare
Arkham
to that.
I mean, I don't think anything can compare to that. It's so good, yeah.
Yeah. Which, I thought that was kind of odd too. I mean, it was the same developer that made Arkham Origins, but they haven't made a game since, but it's not bad. Like, the story is really good. I mean, the combat, take it or leave it, whether you like it or not, whatever, but I would wait for a sale. See if it goes on sale around like Black Friday. I would not drop 70 on it, at least because it's on next gen consoles. For on Xbox and PlayStation 5.
It's only
5.
on,
Yeah, because it was weird because it was supposed to come out for last gen and next gen, and they're like, hey, we're just gonna move forward with next gen. We're like, okay, cool.
Yeah, and then they're like, we're only gonna do 30 frames per second. It's like,
yeah,
wait,
I was
what?
like, that doesn't make any sense to me. But I digress. Definitely, it's good. I would just wait for a sale. That's all I got to say about that.
That's what I'm kind of hoping, that GameStop will get like, used copies in, and
oh, I'm sure they will.
Then it'll be cheaper because I'm not paying that. That's why I was like, what do I have to play instead? Return to Monkey Island. Yay. I will beat this game.
Well, Tessa, if you have an Xbox and if you have Game Pass, you can play the new Plague Tale game that is out. I think is the first one on there, Devin? I can't remember. It's the first Plague Tale game on
I believe so.
Game Pass as well. I'm not entirely sure, but it's something to look into.
I just wrote it down right now for real. I'm gonna check it out.
They're nice and short too. Short little.
Yeah, they're
games
very
that are
nice and short. There's 2 games. The first one's called The Plague Tale Innocence. I think it's on Game Pass. I know Plague Tale Requiem is, and that's the second game.
Perfect.
It's a great indie studio, nice little Last of Us kind of feel game. Without it being The Last of Us, it's like in old timey France. It's really good.
Oh, I'm excited now. Thank you.
Instead of zombies, it's rats.
Yeah, instead of yay. But as for me, for what I've been watching, I actually just finished Enola Holmes 2. Can't say anything about it because we're under embargo, but I did watch it. So that was one of my things I've been watching. I was going through the Scream series, just kind of watching some more spooky season stuff. Been doing some rewatch of the Fear Street trilogy that is on Netflix. I love that trilogy so much.
It's so good.
I got to finish. I'm down to the last movie. I'm not ready to watch it because I don't want it to be over. And I'm like, it's just, I love it. I hope they give us more Fear Street stuff. Yeah, but those are just a few things I've been watching. I think, I got to watch Willow, the first movie. I gotta watch that.
I can't believe you haven't watched that.
Tessa, if I gave you a list of movies that
I know.
there's a lot of movies.
There's a lot of stuff I haven't watched either.
Yeah, everybody has a list.
Yeah, it is what it is, but it's fine. I'll get around to Jaws one day. But
you haven't watched Jaws?
No, I have not. I haven't watched Jaws.
God. Who are you?
I haven't seen, my gosh, James Cameron's, oh my gosh, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Titanic?
Yeah, I've never seen it.
You haven't seen Titanic?
Nope.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Set aside a whole day for that one.
I saw it 13 times in the theater. I had a crush on Leonardo
Holy
DiCaprio,
crap.
so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think everyone did.
I know.
I feel like it's one of those movies where it's like you feel like you know everything that happens because everyone just spoils everything anyway. It's kind of like trying to introduce someone to like Empire Strikes Back for the first time, but like everybody already knows that Vader's Luke's father. So like that
Spoiler
twist
alert.
that oh no. But I'll get around to it one day.
It's good. It's good. It got to the point where my mom was like, I'm not bringing you to the theater if that's what you're going to see anymore. So I bought a ticket for something else. I don't even know what it was. And I went and I saw Titanic.
The old switcheroo. I love it.
Yes.
I absolutely love it. But, ladies and gentlemen, of course, the main reason why we're all here today, we're going to be getting into our House of the Dragon, aka Hot D, episode 10, aka the season finale, which is titled The Black Queen. So for this episode, it is going to be more spoiler heavy. We are going to get into our initial reactions of the episode first. So any non-spoiler thoughts will be thrown in there. Then we'll get into our spoiler section. We were covering it through Warner Brothers. And again, thank you, Warner Brothers, for sending us those screeners so we can serve you guys the tea each and every week. But they wanted to be extra careful and not send out the finale to critics. And then unfortunately, it got leaked anyway. But that's okay. So Tessa, Devin, are you guys ready to get into our review of House of the Dragon, episode 10?
Let's do it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after this introduction to House of the Dragon, episode 10.
The road ahead is uncertain, but the end is clear. We are better defended.
Against whom?
Whomever may dare to challenge us. The threat of war looms. The gods have yet to make a man who lacks the patience for absolute power, Your Grace.
And we are back with our House of the Dragon episode 10 review. Again, this is the season finale of House of the Dragon. And unfortunately, we're not going to have it for at least the next 2 years as they are filming starting in spring 2023, I believe. Is what the showrunner said. So it feels like it's going to be like a Stranger Things season 3 to season 4, but 2 years instead of 3. So I feel like we can get through it, guys, because worry not. We have a lot more fantasy stuff on the way this year. This is the year for fantasy. It is the year for horror. We still have Willow, the series, coming up. We have His Dark Material season 3 that is dropping for any of you His Dark Material fans out there. We also have The Dragon Prince season 4. I'm very, very excited for that as well. That's hitting on Netflix, but we still have so much fantasy stuff to get to later on this year. But unfortunately, House of the Dragon has ended for all of us. So we're going to get into our initial reactions here. We're going to start with Tessa, and then we'll go to Devin, and then I'll close out. So Tessa, what were your initial reactions on this season finale?
No, the season finale. I was like, poor Rhaenyra, that girl, she went through it this episode. That one point, like, she's handed a glass of wine, and I was like, you deserve that. You drink that glass of wine, girl. Like, this has been right from the start. And then, like, stuff keeps happening to her. You talk about a bit of an emotional roller coaster. Like, there's a few, I wouldn't really call them highs, but, like, better moments, I guess, for her. But I was like, the poor girl, I adored her all season. She was probably my favorite character. Her and Damon, even though they're like related, I was like, well, they're not twins, so that's a win. Well, I was so happy and I loved them so much. So I was actually kind of, I don't want to say disappointed with episode 9, but I was like, oh, I got to know how Rhaenyra is taking this news. Like, what's happening to her? And then this entire episode, I was like, oh my gosh, this poor girl. And I just kind of like, as a mom, there were some moments in this episode that I was like, this could be very triggering. I'm keeping this part spoiler free, but there are some, as a mother, there are some horrible, horrible moments. And so it was a very intense, but I was very, very happy with it. A little annoyed with the whole like cliffhanger they're leaving us on for 2 years, but I'll just have to deal with it.
I feel it. That's the beauty of TV. Not all of our questions are answered by the end of each season, which is usually how TV works, but it does leave us, yearning for more. But I'm going to pass it over to Devin so he can give his initial reactions for Hot D episode 10.
Yeah, going into this blind, having never watched Game of Thrones before, it was definitely an interesting ride, to say the least. I'm not going to say I'm glad it's over, but it felt like each week I was taking a test that I didn't study for. Like different people would pop up on the screen that I had never seen before. All these names, all these people I had to try to memorize. It's just a lot to take in for someone who has no idea anything about this world. But I would say overall, I enjoyed the finale. I don't know, maybe you guys can tell me how this compares to other Game of Thrones finales, but it felt kind of tame. Like there were obviously a few events that happened. Obviously, Rhaenyra had quite a bit going on, and some things unfold within her family. But it is left on a pretty big cliffhanger, as you mentioned. With we have to wait and see 2 hours, or not 2 hours. It'd be nice if it was 2 hours, but 2 years until we see what unfolds this war that is building. It felt like kind of episode 9, where like I felt episode 9 was building to a war, and then 10 would be the war, but 10 is also kind of building to a war, and then the war will probably be season 2. So we'll have to see, but maybe you guys can weigh in on that.
Yeah. So for my initial reactions really quick, maybe we can answer your question there, Devin. I mean, for me being a huge Throney, whatever you want to call me, I've loved this world ever since the original series came out. And, that's what prompted me to read the books for Game of Thrones. And of course, for Fire and Blood, which is what House of the Dragon is adapted through. And I actually want to reread it again because this is so gosh darn good. But it's a tragedy, but it also, this episode sets a flame underneath Rhaenyra. We have seen more of a tamed Rhaenyra thus far, with this episode, with her trying to be, following her father's footsteps. Of course, we already know that the king is dead as of episode 8, which still crushes my heart. But there's a lot going on, and this entire season, I feel like it is the setup for the war, what's to come, like what Devin was saying, because there's so much more that we have not seen yet that it's going to blow a lot of people's minds. I think waiting 2 years at least, I think it's going to be worth it because, I mean, I know with the original Game of Thrones, it used to be like a yearly thing where, every single year we expect something new, but this is a different team, different set of writers, a few of the same producers and whatnot for showrunners and cameramen and whatnot. But I think it's going to be worth it, like a 2-year wait. Like, I don't want just like to dive back into Game of Thrones where it feels like every single year we're getting something. I wanted to feel special and I wanted to mean something. And much like with Rings of Power, because I know that's going to be getting a second season as well. I'm ready for both of these shows, especially for House of the Dragon, to kind of just, we've left on an amazing cliffhanger. It's yearning for people to maybe hopefully start reading the book. So, I mean, you still have to wait, but you can at least, have an idea of what's going to happen, because there's been a lot of people online, especially on Twitter, have just been a lot of book readers that have been just spoiling everything for everyone. And I mean, even though I am a book reader, like I would still like to know how it unfolds on screen, because there are a lot of changes that they've made through the books and through the show. Some for probably for better, maybe some for worse. It just depends on who you are. But overall, I think this was a great episode. But to answer your question, Devin, I think we had talked about it before. Usually in Game of Thrones, the climax would happen during like the penultimate episode. And then like episode 10 would be like the cool down and that kind of like, you know, the aftermath, and like kind of sets things up for the following season. But since Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon are so different, I really enjoy how they're kind of moving away from that. Like House of the Dragon is its very own, it's its own show. And I know people are going to try to compare it to season 1 of House of the Dragon. I mean, of Game of Thrones. I don't think people should, because they're so totally different, even though they are within the same universe. It's something new that I was intrigued when, especially when episode 9 for the Green Council came out. I was wondering what was going to happen. I'm like, okay, so they're kind of they're like sister episodes. Like you have episode 9, the Green Council, and then that focuses on Alicent, and then the Black Queen, of course, focuses on Rhaenyra. So they kind of work hand in hand. But sorry, I've been talking here for a while, but I love the show so much. But it was a job well done. I think the finale, it stuck the landing, and I can't wait for more, honestly. So with all that said, let's actually get into our spoiler section. So ladies and gentlemen, if you have not seen House of the Dragon episode 10, aka the season finale, that is your first spoiler warning for the season finale. Again, that is your second spoiler warning for the season finale. So again, if you haven't seen it, it's on HBO Max. Go watch it, you know, with your mother, your brother, your significant other, whoever it may be. Just go watch it. If you've been watching weekly, if you haven't, you can go binge watch all 10 episodes now if you're a big binger out there. So, there's a lot to get into in here with this spoiler section. But where do you guys want to start? Because of course, R.I.P. Lucerys, aka Luke.
Oh my gosh.
Lukey.
That was crazy.
I feel like this episode was more as much as Luke's episode as it was Rhaenyra's. Obviously, you know, we've kind of hinted at a few things, but now we can kind of, you know, let it breathe and let all the dogs out. But
in our world, it's called horsing around, when you like mess around with another kid and get in trouble. I guess it's like dragoning around in this. It took it a little too far.
A little, just a little too far, just a tad.
A little bit, but I mean, what do you guys want to start with? Because I mean, I guess we could just start with Luke's death. What did you guys think of that sequence? And I mean, gosh, there's just so much to talk about here between that but we'll start with Luke's death, and then we'll kind of just move our way through. So I guess I'll pass it over to Tessa if she had any insights or any thoughts about that.
Listen, so I haven't read the book, although I think I'm going to in this break because
I think you should.
I read the Game of Thrones book, so I'm going to read this one. Okay, so, But listen, when he like landed his dragon and he's all like nervous, like, oh, and I'm like, this poor kid. And then you see Vhagar, I was like, oh, he's gonna die. Like, cause Aemond he's not messing around. He's crazy. He reminds me of Joffrey. Right? Like in a way where except maybe Joffrey was a little more unhinged. I feel like Aemond kind of has like a plan more than Joffrey. I don't know. Devin doesn't know what I'm talking about because he hasn't seen Game of Thrones, but he reminds me of Joffrey.
He has a top tier evil face. So that's all I know. He's got that great evil face going.
He does. He's got that jawline. He's got the missing eye. So I was like, this poor kid, like I was scared for Luke, right? I was like, he's nervous, making me nervous. Like, I don't know what's going on. And when he walked in there and then, you know, he's like, I'm not a warrior. I'm here as a messenger. I was like, oh, look at it. Like, he's so cute. He looked so little. Like, I know he's young, but he looked so little, like a little kid in there. And he left. And that scene, though, when you see Vhagar fly over him, I was like, oh man, that dragon is huge. And then I did love the parallel, or like how earlier in the episode Rhaenyra was like, when the dragons go to war, everything burns, right? And you see both of the boys there lose control of their dragons. They're both like, no, mind me. But the dragons are like, just gonna fight. Anyway, I enjoyed that, how they kind of brought that back around. Like, yeah, this is what she was trying to tell Damon. Like, this is what's going to happen when you bring dragons into the war. They're dragons, right? They're like wild animals. You can't really fully control them. But legit raining body parts was not on my bingo card for the finale. That was intense. I was like, I know I just full on like jaw dropped, like, did that really just happen? Vhagar just, one bite and they're just raining body parts, dragon and human body parts raining from the sky. That was intense, but I did like Rhaenyra's reaction. Like, I'm going to cry for a hot second. And then like, oh yeah, Mama Dragon, maybe I should say, is coming out. Yeah.
That's true. It's weird because, I mean, even from the top of the episode, leading up to that point, it's, this episode happens literally like a day or two after. I know Devin is very thankful for that. No more time jumps. He does not like the time jumps at all.
So befuddled the whole season.
Befuddled.
He was like, who is Sir Harwin Strom? Who was this man?
I had no idea.
And I do think the show should have done a little bit better job of introducing him, because there were a lot of time jumps. But even from the beginning of this episode where, Rhaenys, she escapes King's Landing. She flies straight to Dragonstone. And like, she doesn't even she just rips the Band-Aid off. She's like, hey, the king is dead. And there's more news. You're kind of being replaced. Like, you're being usurped. Well, you've already been usurped. So, and this kind of triggers that stress for Rhaenyra to go into labor early, which was very,
graphic?
I didn't think we were going to, yeah. Well, we saw a miscarriage happen on screen, which is something I never really thought that this show would do, or at least within this universe. Like, obviously we've seen miscarriages in different ways, obviously with Emma's death.
Yeah, actually seeing it actually happen, that was just
the leg of the baby, like in blood, like that shot was, I was like, this is very triggering for anyone who has ever lost a child. My goodness, this should have had a trigger warning at the beginning. That was insane.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, they try to perform a C-section with, Emma during episode 1, and it's, modern medicine. Yeah.
That's the takeaway from House of the Dragon. Jeez.
I know. It's so like I said before, I feel like this, as much as Lucerys is, or I'll just call him Luke. I feel like this is as much as Luke's episode as it is Rhaenyra's, because, he doesn't want to take over Driftmark. I mean, he's a timid kid. He already looks younger than his brother, which I thought was kind of weird. I'm like, okay, I know who Luke and Jace are, but Jace looks older for some reason.
Way older.
I couldn't tell the ages of any of the kids.
I mean, it's the same with Aegon and Aemond, right? Like,
yeah.
Aemond looks older than Aegar.
Yeah,
Aegon.
Aegon.
Their names
yeah.
are. Aegon, that's his name. Mm-hmm. Too many names are almost the same. They changed like
Some
3
are
letters. Some are the same. You're right. That's even worse.
Oh, someone made the joke on Twitter saying this should have been called like Too Many Aegons, because there's a lot. There's a lot of Aegons. I mean, yeah, it's crazy. So
but Aegons be Aegons.
Yeah.
Pretty much. But Devin, what did you think of Luke's death? I mean, I want to know from your perspective, because I know you haven't really spent that much time with him, or I feel like you haven't spent that much time with him. But what are your thoughts about Luke's demise?
I thought it was just a pretty cool scene overall, just seeing the other dragon just tower over. Like, Luke's little dragon was like the size of that other dragon's paw. Like, it was just a monumental size difference, and it was cool seeing that play out. One thing I did notice, I had to look it up afterwards, but I liked Daemon didn't do much this episode, but he went into a volcano and hunting for a different dragon. I had to look it up. Apparently, he's looking for the second largest dragon to make his own. So that's a big deal.
That is, oh my gosh, what is the name of that dragon? I had it pulled up here, and I'm totally blank. It was the dragon that King Jaehaerys, the Peaceful, the king who was in power before Viserys.
Vermithor.
No.
Yeah, Vermithor. So, I mean, I guess it would be like scale size. Like I really love how they showed, I think Arax or Arax is Luke's dragon. It's such a baby dragon. He's a little baby boy. Like, it was great to actually see, like they've been telling people, Vhagar is technically next to Balerion the Dread, whose skull is like in the Red Keep. Vhagar was the second biggest at the time, and then it goes King Jaehaerys's dragon, I believe. So, but to see Luke's dragon and then Vhagar above, like I really love how they were finally able to we know how big Vhagar is, but to really see her in like just all of her glory.
Yeah,
like she's crazy. Slow. She's a very slow moving dragon, as you guys have seen. But yeah, it was amazing. I was like, oh God, Luke's gone. Luke's gone. It really sucks.
I thought he was gonna, when he started maneuvering through like the smaller spots where Vhagar couldn't go, I was like, oh, he's gonna get this. No, I should have known I was watching Game of Thrones. Don't get attached to people. That's the rule.
Exactly. And of course, we also have Otto, making his way over to Dragonstone saying, what up? What's going on?
Princess.
Yeah, that was a dig. That was on purpose. I don't like him.
No, Otto is a sneaky little Slytherin. That's all I got to say. But I mean, it's crazy. I know we're jumping around here, but at the same time, it's like there's so much that happens in this episode, from, the fight with Luke and Aemon, which I thought was kind of weird for a second, because when Luke goes, when he first visits Storm's End, he does exactly what he's told. And then Aemon wants like more justice. He's like, hey, I want you to cut out your eye. I'm like, man, you just said when you were like 14 years old that I may have lost an eye, but I gained a dragon. Like, why do you want him to, cut out a
dragon's not enough?
Maybe not. Aemon is a troublemaker though. He is, he's very unhinged, but obviously as Tessa had said earlier, these Targaryens, I mean, they are humans, but like I kind of view them as gods. It's just how people view them in the world, because they do have these dragons, but even they can't control their full power. It's like try to tame a wild animal. You can't. It's not feasible. It's not realistic, especially Vhagar. So it's like, these dragons, they are very intelligent creatures, and they have instincts, and they're, those animal instincts kind of start to kick in. But it's crazy how we've had so much friction between everything. But I wanted to kind of pass it over to you guys, because I've been talking here a lot, and I do apologize. Was there anything, Tessa, that you wanted to bring up that we haven't been able to talk about in our spoiler section yet, that you wanted to, get off your chest?
Yeah. So speaking of stupid Otto, when he shows up, can we talk about the fact that Rhaenyra literally just had a miscarriage and then is like, I'm going to get on this dragon and go show you how, you want to summon me? I'm going to get on a dragon. I'm going to go. It's very much like when she had the baby, and I forget what episode it was. 8,
are you talking
maybe,
like 5 when we actually did the time jump?
5, yeah, I don't know. Whenever it was, when they first did the time jump. Listen, this has been
episode 5.
And
episode 5.
Yeah, and Allison
or 6,
saw
6. I'm sorry, 6, not 5.
6. I don't know. It was a previous episode when Allison's like, I want to see your baby. And she's like, you're not taking the baby without me being there. Like, she's going to kill my kid. So she's literally leaving a trail of blood behind her. And, you get that kind of the same thing. Like, she just went through this horrible, devastating thing. And she hops on that dragon and is going to go show how powerful she is and be like, all right, you wanted to, what do you got to tell me? I just love her so much. But it's as a mom, I'm like, goodness, I don't know how you could muster that. Props to you. I think that's probably why she's one of my favorite characters. She's so badass. She just doesn't, she's going to rally when she needs to. And it's crazy. I love it.
I agree with you there, because ever since episode 1, where her mother was saying, we're women, like childbearing is our battlefield. And we've seen, we've seen Rhaenyra give birth to 6 kids. And I mean, unfortunately, her 6th kid ended in a miscarriage, but I mean, it's kind of like the best thing that she can do, unfortunately, within the circumstances that she's in, because, it's very interesting how she does not give up. And I think she's a very well-written character. And I think she probably is my favorite character of House of the Dragon altogether. Because like you said, I mean, especially for parents, especially, losing children before their time, because, your parents are supposed to go before you do. And it is, she's been through a lot. I mean, so is Daemon, though. Even, during Daemon's child, when Rhaenyra goes into childbirth for the 6th time, and Daemon doesn't want to be there. And I mean, no one in this world is perfect, but it's like, I mean, can you really blame him? Like, after what happened with his first wife, and it's like, does he really want to go through that again? And
no, but can I tell you how mad I am at him this episode? Not just for that, but when he was like choking her, what was that all about?
See, Daemon is not a perfect person. I know a lot of people online are like, they're painting him in a certain light. He has
People
a lot of good
him
qualities.
Too much.
Yeah. I agree. He does care about his family, but he's still very unhinged. And he didn't know about the prophecy of Song of Ice and Fire. Because why would Viserys tell him?
Doesn't make any sense.
It's crazy. But Devin, I want to pass it over to you. Was there anything you wanted to bring up in our spoiler section that we haven't gotten to yet? I apologize. I'm on cloud 9. I watched this episode twice so far, and I'm just, it's just been a great day. But
I actually had a question. I had forgotten what happened to Lord Corlys. Where did he go? He kind of just appeared again in this episode.
He was like sick after he went away for, what did they say? How many years did he go away?
6 years.
6 years. And then they were like, I think was it the beginning of episode 8, maybe? They were like, oh, he's sick and he might die. And that kind of, was that 8, 7? I don't know. A previous episode.
So
it kickstarted 8?
8.
Was his brother that got beheaded?
Yeah, his brother got beheaded.
That's why I was initially confused, because I had them mixed up.
They look very similar. Yeah, the hair, the big blonde braids.
Yeah. So in episode 8, Corlys is still missing because he's, went to go find the Stepstones, left Rhaenys all by herself for 6 whole years.
6 years.
That is a long time. Like,
that's a long time.
Especially during that time where it's like, you don't really, like, 6, my gosh. But yeah, so he returns from battle. And that kind of like, everyone's, trying to rally behind Rhaenyra, and all these men want to go to war. So, but sorry, go ahead, Devin. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, that was the only question I had.
Yeah, he came back sick, and that kind of kickstarted the whole like, well, what are we going to do if he dies? And then they started fighting over that again. And it's like, you can't just like, gosh, it's like, didn't you say this person's going to succeed? Just leave it. They gotta, Well,
it's that's the whole thing, because it's like, I mean, you see Rhaenyra, after she is, I guess she has like her own personal coronation after, the funeral of her child, and it's, all these men are just so eager to go to war, like, like, okay, yeah, like, we're gonna swear fealty to Rhaenyra, and we're just gonna go in there. And what did what did Daemon say? He was on it, by the way. Like, he was like, oh, he's like, we can have this war done by like the next like full circle, like by the time like the moon turns, like the next full moon. Like, he was, yeah.
Right. It's like, we got 14 dragons. They have 4.
Yeah. They were, it kind of resembles not only, well, for the Green Council, you had the entire council conspiring behind Alicent's back, even though they're not necessarily doing this for the Black Queen, for Rhaenyra, it's more transparent. But, all these men are just like, oh, we have to go in there. We just have to take it all down. Like, we have dragons. And Rhaenyra's like, well, no, let's think about this for a second. And I love how Rhaenys, kind of calls out her husbands and saying, every man standing around like that, the table, which was by far amazing. I was like, I did not know.
That was a very cool table.
Yeah.
Because it also shows in Game of Thrones, but it's not lit up like that. That was like our actual first time seeing it like glow. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. But yeah. I love how Rhaenys says, every man standing around the table urges her to, plunge the realm into war. And Rhaenyra is the only one who's demonstrated for restraint. Because she's like, well, I need to figure out who my allies are first before I blindly just go charging through the gates. Because like she said, I don't want to rule over a bunch of bone and ash. So it's like, I get it, she wants to be level-headed about this, but
no, she's not going to be anymore.
Not anymore, because I feel like she was trying to figure out some kind of compromise between her and Alicent, because Otto throws in that sneaky little piece of paper when they're, I was so
Otto.
mad.
See, I hate Otto. I hate him. He's like, she hasn't forgotten the love you guys once had. Shut up, Otto. She's doing a horrible thing.
He's like, whatever. yeah, whatever. It was. He's like, oh, well, Aegon, he has the Conqueror's name and the Conqueror's sword and the Conqueror's crown. I'm like, cool, bro.
This all started because she was like mad that
he's just a lizard.
I just like Alicent was just all mad because why did they fight so much? Because she made out with her uncle and then slept with the Cole there. Is that why Alicent was so mad at her? That I guess because she lied to her.
Yeah. I mean, Rhaenyra did definitely lie to her face where she was like,
she did.
I didn't do
but
anything with anybody.
Lie to each other. It's been years. Get over it. Goodness gracious.
Yeah. I think this entire series, at least so far, we've seen Alicent her entire life, even when Rhaenys said in episode 9 that her entire life has been service to men. Especially she didn't get a choice to who she wanted to marry. She had to marry her best friend's daughter.
Dad.
Her best friend's father. And she can't refuse the king. So it's like,
it's all because of her dad. See, I hate Otto. Otto was like, hey, go to his chamber and tell him you feel bad his wife just died. So gross. Ugh.
He's very manipulative. I mean, he's clearly a bad guy. I think Littlefinger in Game of Thrones is a little bit more, he was more, I guess, mathematical. Like he knew what to say. I mean, Otto has a silver tongue, at least in the show. But I think Littlefinger was more careful with certain things.
He's
because
Littlefinger is 10 steps ahead, where Otto's one
or two, if But it's just they usurped Rhaenyra on a technicality, and there's so much in this episode where she's trying to set the stages for war in a peaceful-esque way because she's trying to honor her father's memory, but it just doesn't go that way because everyone's just so riled up. And, can you blame Rhaenyra for trying to figure out who is on her side, especially after, it's like a 1-2, her father passes away. Oh, and, what was promised that was yours is already taken away.
And then you lose your baby.
Both babies.
Well, both babies. One. Then she gets
one
crowned.
baby.
Then it's
baby Luke. I just gotta call him Luke. Luke.
And a baby dragon.
And the baby dragon. Oh, and the dragon. Yeah.
The bloodshed. I mean, it sucks because you have Aemon. Aemon was not trying to kill his nephew. He was not trying to kill Luke whatsoever. He's trying to intimidate him because that's his thing. But it just ended so badly. And then, of course, the Sapphire Eye, which was pretty awesome. I was waiting for that. And I saw a little, it was a small little spoiler, and that was it. And I was like, But did you guys run into any spoilers at all?
No, I muted words. When I saw it was leaked, I was like, nope. And I muted words and stuff because I wanted to wait and watch it on HBO Max and
high quality. I got you.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Especially the finale. I'm not trying to Plus, there's no way I was going to put my review out early and upset Warner Brothers. Like, why would I do that? So
Exactly.
I want to see season 2.
I want to see. Yeah, we got to stay in Zaslav's good graces here, everyone.
Exactly.
We got to stay in Warner Brothers Discovery's good graces. But yeah, that would have been.
I think Zaslav might have an emerald eye as well. He got some evil under there.
Maybe we'll see. I don't know. It's so crazy. There's so much to get into this episode. I don't want to be here all day because I know Tessa's very busy. She's got a lot going on.
I do. Living in LA, man. I love it, but it is busy.
Oh yeah, for sure. I can only imagine. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to bring up before we get into our final thoughts and ratings?
I'm just glad Game of Thrones fans seem to love it because that's kind of what it's all about, especially after kind of the sadness of the ending of Game of Thrones. Apparently, I wouldn't know.
I was gonna say you've got 2 years now. You can watch Game of Thrones.
I don't know.
So a lot of people, I'm not sure where your stance is on season 8 of Game of Thrones, Tessa, but
it wasn't as bad as people make it out to be. That's my stance.
Okay. Yes, I'm in the same camp. There's a lot of things I wish it would have changed. I wish season 7 and season 8 should have been 10 episodes altogether because I feel like we really needed more room to breathe. But yeah, it's going to leave a sour taste in people's mouth, and I understand that. But the first 3 episodes of season 8 are like really, really good. It started faltering for the last 3 episodes. But no, I'm with you, Tessa. I don't believe season 8 is as bad as what people make it out to be. Definitely, it's a disappointing ending. But it's all about the journey, and Game of Thrones is still one of my favorite shows of all time, regardless of the ending, because, it just is what it is. I try to tell people, you don't have to like the ending of season 8, but you do have to accept it because that is what it is. But
probably would have helped if they had some books to, go off of instead of
that's
they got abandoned partway through. They got abandoned.
Everyone wanted to, put the blame on D&D, and it's like, now hold on now, because I've been waiting since 2010 for George to drop these last 2 books, y'all. But then again, they could have. There's a lot of things they adapted throughout Game of Thrones. They easily could have made it stretch a little bit longer, but it's like, when do you cut it off? Because you don't want to end up like The Walking Dead, where it's just like, we're just making seasons until George finishes his book and yada, yada, yada.
I know.
So, I can't really say it's just all the showrunner's fault, because I do blame George a little bit there, because Winds of Winter was supposed to come out in 2010, and he's also supposed to do A Dream of Spring to close it all out. So, I can't say it's one person's fault altogether. So it is what it is.
It's a collection of things, and certain things were mishandled, like the whole. I don't know. In case Devin watches it, but
fair enough.
I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. The whole big massive fight that's supposed to be, and then they're just like, exactly what I'm talking about. I'm sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
but Devin, watch it. You have 2 years. You do.
Yeah, you got 2 years. Hey, Devin, it's on Vudu. If you don't want to watch it on HBO Max, it's on HBO Max as well, but it's also on my Vudu account, so you can just watch it there as well.
There you go. See, Ben Schwartz is doing it. Why can't you?
If I could watch with him, I definitely would.
I would watch Game of Thrones with Ben Schwartz. That would be hilarious.
Oh, I bet it's amazing. His tweets.
But he has to be dressed up
great.
as Sonic. That's the caveat.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, season 8 it's not as bad as what people make it out. I feel people over exaggerate a lot, but I can't fault them for not liking it.
But that's why I'm happy for you guys. I'm glad House of the Dragon has definitely been everything you've hoped for.
It's like peak Game of Thrones for me. It's so good. I'm like, this feels like
it felt. It's like they never
Game
left.
of Thrones. It's so good. Yes, I was like, oh my gosh, I love
First episode. It just King's Landing. Rhaenyra flying with her dragon. It's like welcome home. And I'm like, I absolutely love it. It was.
And then there's
fantastic.
the backstabbing and deceit and lying and blood and gore and sex and incest, it's like, oh, I've never left.
Everyone, everyone from, okay, I can't say anything. I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself for Game of Thrones. I don't want to ruin it for Devin. I'm sorry if he decides to watch it. But there was some incest stuff going on in Game of Thrones that people weren't okay with. And now people are rooting for it in House of the Dragon. And I'm like, hold on now.
Because Matt Smith, it's the Matt Smith effect. I don't know. People love him. Maybe they're just so happy that Morbius is over and he's better in this.
Yeah.
He tried his best in that movie.
He did what he could.
He had a good time, I bet.
That dance. We're so off topic. But I just, my daughter looked at me in the theater and went, that was weird after like that little dance he did. And I go, yeah, that was weird.
Weird is generous for that one.
I know.
You got to pay the big bucks, you know. You got to pay the rent, you know. You got to spend it on rent, insulin, whatever you can. You know, it is what it is.
Now he can do a bunch of indie roles. He did the big gigs. He can do some indie roles now.
Oh yeah, I mean, he was Doctor Who for crying out loud as well.
I mean, he's so good. He is.
I was wondering how he was going to portray Damon, and it's like he just. I saw a meme where someone was like, his script for House of the Dragon is just a blank page.
Yeah.
Go wild.
It feels like it. He's so good. And like the fact that he can have chemistry with Millie so well, but then also with Emma, it's like, it was perfect because he had to have that chemistry with the two different actresses. And that's impressive that it felt like the same relationship, if that makes sense.
Yeah, same thing with Otto as well, with his daughter. So it's crazy. I mean, as much as people like to rag on Damon, I mean, he was distraught when Viserys passed away. Like, I mean, that was his brother. And he's like, oh, like, how did Viserys die? And they're like, we don't really know. And obviously no one really does, but he kind of has like a hint of, you know, they were sedating him the entire time to kind of, you know, get him out of the picture a little bit quicker. But yeah. But let's get into our final thoughts and ratings here. I'll pass it over to Devin and then to Tessa, and then I'll close out. So Devin, what are your final thoughts about season 1 as a whole? You know, of course, dealing with the finale, and then your rating for the season altogether, or maybe just for this episode. However, whatever you're feeling, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Final thoughts for me. I'd say this series definitely started off behind the 8 ball for me personally, because first of all, I've never seen Game of Thrones. That's obviously a big thing that's missing for me here. But also, I'm just not generally a fan of fantasy type things and just kind of old like period pieces and just things like that. Never really grabbed me. But I'd say overall, it did a pretty good job of bringing me into this world and introducing me to all these characters, the whole 100 of them, it feels like, but to at least give me some entertaining deaths and incest and everything you guys mentioned before. You can see it's all there. For me, a big issue was the time jumps. It just really had me second guessing myself the whole time. Like, did I miss an episode last week? Am I behind? I don't know what's happening. I don't know who these people are. But it was definitely confusing at times. But I'd say overall it was worth it. I probably wouldn't have watched it if HBO didn't hook us up and give us the early screeners. But I'm glad they did. I'm glad we were able to do that. I'd say overall as a whole this season, I'd probably give it like an 80 overall. It's pretty impressive for someone who's never watched Game of Thrones or doesn't really have interest in the genre. So I'd say they did a pretty good job.
That was our deal, Tessa, by the way. I told them, I'm like, if we get screeners for House of the Dragon,
couldn't pass it up.
We're covering it. I was like, we're covering it. But Tessa, what are your final thoughts and ratings of the season finale and just the entire season as a whole?
I mean, the season as a whole, I loved it. I'm a big Game of Thrones fan. So for me, like we talked about it felt like we never left, you know? It's like, we're back. And yeah, it's different people, but it's the same shenanigans. It's the same stuff that's going on. And I hadn't read this book. So now I'm very, very, very intrigued. I again, found myself rooting for Damon and Rhaenyra, which is weird because I was against the other thing, which we kind of hinted at. So I don't know. I'm in that group of this is very weird and I don't know how to feel about it. But I thought they handled the time jumps well. I'm glad in a way they did that because like we kind of talked about dragging stuff on too long. And I feel like they needed to get the ball rolling. And I feel like to get where we are now, we needed to see Alicent and Rhaenyra build that relationship when they were younger and what happened to Rhaenyra's mother, and to get it all in one season, which is a setup for clearly the big massive war is coming. I'm glad they didn't start the war, which feels weird to say, but I'm glad because I think we need that to be done right, and we need to have it done in not just an episode or start it in an episode. We need to have it where we're gonna have not having to wait 2 years to see where it goes after it starts, because that would have killed me. I loved it. I really did. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think they started off well and they ended well. They stuck the landing. I mean, I'm so biased because I love Game of Thrones, but like I think it was perfect. There's a few issues, but nothing I would knock a rating down. So like I gave the season a 5 out of 5. Like or 100, however you rate it. Like there's nothing I think was to warrant taking it down, because I'll watch it again. You know, I'm going to watch it again. I'll probably watch it again sooner than later. And then I'll watch it again before season 2 comes out. And it's made me want to go back and watch Game of Thrones all over again. Like
I know, Tessa. I know. Oh my gosh. Trust. Whew, I want to go back, but I'm like, this is so much. I need to find like a good, maybe during like our winter break when we take a break from the podcast.
You should DM Ben Schwartz.
Yeah, let's watch it together. He's in LA, right? He can just come over.
There
we
you
can
go.
watch it together.
There you go.
Staying out.
He's like, be over in 20. I'll bring the pizza.
Perfect.
For me, for final thoughts, I mean, it's a darn near perfect season finale. For me, it just, like Tessa said, like this entire series or season just sets everything up for the wars to come. George R. R. Martin had said himself, you know, we need at least 4 seasons to tell this part of the, you know, of the story correctly. And I agree with him because, you know, we probably should have listened to George the first time around, but let's not make the same mistake twice. But, you know, also, George, I'm still waiting on that book. I got 2 empty
It's never coming.
spots
It's not coming.
on my bookshelf. Oh, it better come.
I don't think it's ever coming, but
I don't think it's coming either.
I've lost faith, but you continue your hope.
It's some days you're like, you know what? I think it's going to be done any day now. Then other days it's like, he's not going to get it done. It's a love-hate relationship. But overall, I really did enjoy this episode. I mean, it is very hard to watch, but it is so necessary because, I mean, Rhaenyra is not a perfect person. And we all know that, but it's, you know, I mean, I'm team like pro storytelling, but like, I mean, if I really boil it down, I guess I am team Black, but I mean, I've been saying, you know, the Greens, they have a pretty good claim too, but you know, they're trying to do this on a little technicality kind of thing, but there's a lot of craziness to come. And I think this season as a whole, you know, me being biased as well, has done a really great job. I mean, I do wish, at least for new watchers, that there weren't as many time skips. I wish we would have spent a little bit more time with like Harwin Strong, because nobody knew who he was. And they're like, oh, like, so Rhaenyra has like 3 kids with this guy. And, you know, I wish we would have spent a little bit more time with him. I feel like to make Luke's death was very impactful.
I also wish he didn't look so much like Kristen Cole.
I know. Well, that was the point, right? She has a type. She's got a type.
Yeah.
That is true. That is very true. I mean, hey, I don't know.
Although Damon looks nothing like them, so I don't know. Maybe she doesn't.
No. And we haven't seen Viserys II or Aegon II, or, you know, I guess, well, they're still kids because they were
kids, yeah.
Yeah, they're still like infants because they were infants when Viserys passed away, because it wasn't that long. There wasn't like a time jump between 8, 9, and 10. It was kind of like all the same.
Because they showed it to him real quick when he was laying in bed. Remember, they're like, "We want you to meet him." So they're like little tiny things.
He didn't say anything when he saw Aegon. He was like, "Oh God!" And then he's like,
No,
"Oh,
he didn't
Viserys,
care.
hey, what's up?"
I know. He has my name. I know that name. Maybe it was all the drugs they had him on.
But honestly, for Paddy Considine, he needs to win all the Emmys. This entire cast needs to win all the Emmys. Like I don't even care. Like I don't even care if Ted Lasso's up for all of its nominations for season 3. But
They've won already. They're fine.
They got one more season, and then they're done. That's gonna be a tearjerker season, I feel like. Yeah. But I digress. For my final thoughts, I loved it. I loved everything about it. I mean, there's a lot of things I wish they would have changed, but overall, I would give this like probably like a solid like, I guess, I don't know, 95 out of 100, just because of the time jumps. Yeah, I just wish they would have spent a little bit more time with the Strongs, but yeah, what are you gonna do about that? But overall, it's great. Like, I mean, like Tessa said, Westeros is back, Game of Thrones is back, and we didn't have to wait too long for it. So I'm very excited for all the other projects that they have in line as well. But with all that said, I'm actually going to pass it over to Tessa. Thank you so much, Tessa, for coming on and talking House of the Dragon with us. And we would like to give you this time to let all of our listeners know what's coming up for you, what you have plans within the coming weeks, and where people can find you on the internet.
Yeah, you guys can see me everywhere at Mama's Geeky, MAMAS. Geeky, mamasgeeky.com, all social media. I'm seeing a little movie soon. You might have heard of it. It's Black Panther Wakanda Forever. It's just a small indie flick. But I'll have my coverage for that soon. Wendell and Wild is already out, my review, but I have interviews. I got to do some in person since I'm here in LA, interviews, which were really great with Henry Selick and James Hong, which were just, two legends, absolutely phenomenal. So those will be going up soon as I get the footage, and tons of stuff. Now that I'm in LA, I'm doing all the things. So just, follow me everywhere. I don't know, everything. That's what I have coming up. Feels like it.
But again, Tessa, thank you so much for coming back on to the show. It's been an honor for sure. It's man, oh man. It's I feel like the entire season's kind of like winding down, but I know that's a lie because we have Black Panther, Avatar 2, The Fablemans, and like all this other crazy stuff that's still
Willow.
Willow.
Got Willow.
Oh, so much. And the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special thingamajigger.
Yes,
I forgot
I'm
about
so
that.
excited for that.
The next
there's so many other things too.
I know. Have you been watching Andor at all, or?
Oh yeah, of course.
I have not.
You haven't?
I watched the first 3 episodes.
So
we got consumed with everything else.
I know. Well, Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars thing ever. Like, it's my favorite Star Wars movie. So for me, like, this is like one of my favorite characters, and getting to spend so much time with him and see where he came from is just amazing. So I've been digging it.
Yeah, I've heard good things. It's just, I feel like, I don't know, we were covering She-Hulk week to week, House of the Dragon, all this. It was so much, but we
made it. We made it. We survived.
It was a lot. It was like you had Rings of Power and House of the Dragon, which were like intense. Then you've got Andor, which was like less intense, but still. Then She-Hulk, which was just fun, but it was like all of these things coming out weekly. Plus, like, movies that get released and other things. It's like, what is going on?
I know. It's crazy.
And Stargirl, I don't know if you guys watch Stargirl. I watch DC Stargirl. So there's that also that's happening.
And we got Titans coming up too.
Part Titans!
1, season 4.
I'm excited for Titans. I'm excited. That show... For me, it gets better and better. Like, it started off very like, but it's getting better.
It oddly does. It can't get any worse. So.
Well, I think that's now it can get worse. So let's not put that out there into the world. I loved Scarecrow and Red Hood, and so I'm gonna miss them this season. But I'm excited. You've reminded me that's coming up. Oh, there's so much stuff to do.
And Doom Patrol.
There's so many things.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, Doom Patrol.
Yeah.
When does Doom Patrol come back? I don't even know.
It comes out this year. I think it's supposed to come out this year.
I'd rather wait. Can it just wait?
I know.
Right.
It's like the second wave is coming.
It's awful because, like, I'd like to take some time off around the holidays. That would be ideal.
It would be nice. It would be nice.
It's not going to happen, is it?
No. No,
it's like
not
that
at
book.
all.
It's like the next Game of Thrones book. It's never happening.
It's never happening. It's never ending for us here, but we do it for the good of the realm. That's all that matters. But as we wind down here, really quick for all of our
Christmas Story Christmas. Sorry, a Christmas Story.
Oh my
Christmas.
God, I forgot about that.
I just saw the screener for that. I can't say anything about it yet, but that's coming.
That's
and
right.
I don't know if you guys were into A Christmas Story, but like
I wasn't really into it,
classic.
but
it's a
Devin,
classic. I love it.
You can watch it on TBS 24 hours a
I
day on
know.
Christmas.
Exactly.
nobody has
it's the
cable
best.
anymore. I'm just kidding.
It's a good point.
Just solely for this. No.
Yeah.
But anyway, Christmas Story Christmas, that's coming out. So
Yeah.
don't forget about that.
Enola
everybody out
Holmes
there.
too. That's coming up
Enola
soon.
Holmes too. I got to
Glass
request it. I
Onion.
forgot to request it. Glass
Yeah.
Onion. Yeah.
Glass. Yeah. This is
When
a
is
lot
the Enola Holmes 2 embargo? Are you allowed to say?
The 27th of October is the embargo.
So I still have a little bit of time if I request it.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about it. See, there's too many things.
All
Too
the
many
things.
There's too many things. But ladies and gentlemen, what's coming up next on our podcast? What's on deck? What can you look forward to listening for our podcast each and every week? We have our Enola Holmes 2 review, which will drop on October 17th, preferably. Just depends on if Devin got a screener yet or not. So we'll have to wait and see. And then, of course, we're going to be covering movies like Black Panther 2, Glass Onion, and more. We are winding down. I think we're done with covering TV for the year. Because my gosh, we're gonna have to figure out a different formula for this stuff moving forward. But it is what it is. I think moving forward, we are just going to be focusing more on movies each and every week for you guys. I'll still be watching a lot of TV on my side, just as a viewer. I'm not going to write anything. I'm just going to watch it. Just so I might do something for a
I
while.
miss
We'll
those
see.
days.
We'll see.
Oh,
I
miss
know.
those days.
I just want to watch something and just enjoy it for what it is. So that's what I'm going to do for the rest of the year for TV. But
That's why you watch reality TV. That's why I go to the mole and like the challenge, because I can
gotta
turn my
watch
brain
some
off
reality
and
TV.
just
New Love at First Sight. Got to get on that.
Love is Blind, all that stuff.
Yeah, Love is Blind. That's what I meant.
I never watched that.
I haven't. Well, my roommate does, but I kind of watch with her sometimes. I'm like, what's going on here?
It's very dumb, but very entertaining, just like all reality TV.
Yeah,
I mean,
right. That's
If Netflix just moved things weekly, things would be so much easier for them. But but I digress. And of course, what is out right now for people to listen to as of this recording, you can listen to our Black Adam review that is out on podcast platforms around the internet, as well as the Midnight Club review, which is spoiler free all the way through for people to listen to if you're looking for something to listen to for spooky season or watch for spooky season. And of course, we also had our Werewolf by Night review and our She-Hulk episodes 1 through 9 review that are out on the podcast now for everyone to listen to. So with all that said, if you like what you heard on today's episode, subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform of choice, and make sure to share an episode of our podcast with a friend, whether it be your mother, your brother, or your significant other. Make sure to share an episode of our podcast with a movie lover in need. Again, Tessa, thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, it's been an honor.
it's been so fun. I'm glad I was able to make time, because this was a lot of fun, and I didn't know you were so into Game of Thrones, so it was great to be able to.
Now you know.
It was great. It was good.
Sir
because-
Kristen.
Yes,
Us
I love
Tauruses,
it.
we understand a lot of things.
Exactly. That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. But thanks for having me. This was so fun.
Oh, of course. It's always a pleasure having you on. So, with all that said, we hope everyone has a great day. We'll see you guys next time. And that's a wrap for today. Thank you all for listening. And if you enjoy the show, leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter to stay in the know. That was Devin, Tessa, and my name is Christian. And we'll see you guys in Westeros on the Iron Throne.
Peace.